I thought it was an outstanding performance, and I thought it was an outstanding game plan from Todd Golden. I thought, there's only been a few teams this year that have been able to go single coverage against Janai Broome in the post, and that's exactly what Florida did. I thought Todd Golden trusted his bigs, who were just massive today. Hauk and Condon were just menaces. I mean, they showed on the broadcast they were like pulling marlins and sharks out of the sea, and there's no surprise that they played with that type of toughness today. And look, like when you play that way against Janai, what it allows you to do, right? Golden said, I trust their athleticism, I trust their length, and it allows you to stay home, right? You don't throw two at Janai Broome, have him, let these shooters get loose, get catch and shoot wide open looks. You don't put two on them to give yourself a disadvantage on the glass, which they didn't today. I thought they were great on the glass, even though it ended up being kind of even by the end. But it was great to see, because I've liked this front court from the start of the season. A lot of talk about Martin being out and their backcourt and Richard and Clayton, but the optionality they have in that front court and just the size and versatility, I thought was really what won Florida the game today.
Goodman? And they don't look the part. They don't look the part up front. Like I remember meeting Condon in the hotel when I saw him in Charlotte 3 weeks ago, and they look like Latula. I mean, they don't look overly intimidating, is what I'm trying to say here. No offense, Mike, but they play so damn hard, though. That's the thing. They're so physical. They embrace it. They don't back down from Broome. And I thought a big key was like they took a punch early, right? And you thought it could get ugly early. And they fought back. And Walter Clayton Jr., who we'll hear from in a little bit, kind of kept them in the game early. And then I thought it was a great team effort. And what they didn't do, they didn't turn it over, number one. And they never let the crowd really get into it after that. There was no home court advantage. Like, we were there, Rob. Like, the Jungle is one of the best home court advantages now, atmospheres in the country. They never let it be a big-time home court advantage because there weren't a lot of live ball turnovers. And again, they didn't let – I mean, can you think of really anything they got in transition where the crowd went crazy? Like, I don't remember anything.
The transition stuff, not really, but they were able to. The crowd was going at the start. Auburn was up.
Early.
I think it was 20,
early, and that was it. Right.
Yeah, they were up double digits early, and then Florida kind of chipped away at the lead. The thing that stood out to me so much about this Florida team was you kind of got a feel for what they want to be and what their goal is as a basketball program, right? Because Walter Clayton Jr., 19 points, 9 assists, 6 boards. You kind of put the ball in his hands and let him operate with Will Richard around him. Normally they have Elijah Martin out there. Elijah obviously didn't play today because of the hip pointer. So Denzel Aberdeen was out there. And then they send Condon and Thomas Huff and Ruben Chignello and Sam Alexis to a point and just let these guys go hammer the glass. We got 3 dudes that are out here to get buckets. We got 3 guys that are here that are going to go pound the glass. And when we get offensive rebounds, we're going to spray it back out because all of a sudden our great shooters are going to have nobody on them. And I think you saw that, especially late in the game. There was the one possession, I think Auburn had cut it to 9, and the crowd was really starting to get going, and they had forced a miss, and then it gets tipped back out, and then they force another miss, and Thomas Huff gets another offensive rebound and tips it out, and it ends up going to, I believe it was Aberdeen, who banged home a 3 and pushed it to 12 with 7 minutes left. And that was the one where it was like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to happen. This comeback isn't going to happen. I don't think I could be more impressed with Florida, right? Like, you don't have arguably your second best player, right? And you go into the Jungle, you go to the number 1 team's home court, and you kind of beat them up a little. Like, I have a take on Auburn that I'm going to give you guys after we hear from Walter Clayton in a second. But Mike, they went in there and they kind of physically beat them up. And when you think about a team whose strength is in their backcourt, you don't normally think about them as someone that's going to beat up on Auburn. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah, it was. And I was curious going into it because with Clayton, you think about like your mindset, right? Okay, Martin's out. And I just think watching Walter Clayton this year, your first inclination would be like, he's going to feel like he has to do a lot today. He's going to feel like he has to shoot 22 plus times. He's going to feel like he has to make every play. And he did make a lot of plays. But when a backcourt member goes down like that, it's not about just replacing that production. It's also about, hey, where else can we get that in the front court? And I just, again, those two guys, Houck and Condon, stepped up in a major way. And I couldn't be more impressed with the guys that they had come off the bench as well, that made an impact. And you've just seen as the season has gone on how many ways that they can win. They got, and again, you talked about it, they got punched in the mouth to start the game. But I'm sitting there and Auburn hit some tough shots. Like Auburn hit some mid-range shots. Miles Kelly hit a couple threes with a hand in his face. I mean, when you look at the shot profile to start the game, it wasn't like Auburn was getting runouts or they were, turning Florida over and getting point-blank layups. And they just stuck to their game plan. And I thought, we'll obviously get to the Auburn piece of this in a second here. But because I do want to get into, again, what Florida did and why Auburn, I thought, was a little bit late to switch up their game plan to combat it. But from what we saw in Knoxville, whatever it was, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, with Florida, I mean, it feels like this is happening. It's like an SEC team gets run out of the gym, and then they turn around and run another team out of the gym, and Florida's just the latest team to, they didn't run Auburn out of the gym today, but it was a punking to me. Like they punked Auburn on their home floor today.
Yep. Goodman, let me ask you this, because we're going to hear from Walter Clayton here in a second. 19 points, 9 assists. He's still kind of dealing with that ankle thing that he didn't play against Vanderbilt. He sprained it against Tennessee. He was not good against Tennessee, and that had a large part of that was because he had the ankle injury. Where does he stand for you in terms of best guards in the country, in terms of best players in the country? I think we've all kind of said Braden Smith is the best point guard in college basketball. And based on the way that Braden's played the last 6 weeks, I think Braden's closer to the best player in college basketball than not the best point guard in college basketball. If that makes sense. But where do you stand on Walter Clayton? Because I don't think a lot of people realize, like, this dude is pushing towards first team All-America kind of territory.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you've got, Cam Jones, Cooper Flagg, Janai Broome, Braden Smith are the four that I think you feel pretty good about, and that fifth spot's open. And certainly Walter Clayton Jr. has a case for that final spot. I mean, listen, I love this kid. First time I ever saw him in person was actually at the Iona UConn game in the NCAA tournament. But I remember watching him before that and just falling in love with him because I felt like you couldn't speed him up. He was a scoring guard at that point who you could see being a point, because if you put the ball in his hands, you couldn't speed him up. And that was evident actually in the first half of that game against UConn in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think it was in Albany. And then he goes to Florida. And I think the beauty for him is, right, he's got a year under his belt there. So he's a little bit more comfortable. He's taken his game to a different level this year. And I think he understands he doesn't have to score every night. I mean, that was the beauty today. Like Mike said, is like you're thinking last minute you find out that Elijah Martin's not playing. So you're thinking potentially, hey, I got to go for 30 tonight. I got to cook. And he did early, and he could have kept doing it. I mean, when you make those shots early, you could go and be thirsty and keep jacking them up, but he didn't. He just second half kind of let the game come to him, didn't force anything, made sure everybody else was involved. That's the makings of a mature player who values winning over their numbers or getting, to the NBA. We're trying.
Yeah,